Okay, good morning, children. So today is the fifth part of this chapter, and last class we are focused on the fertilization events and few post-fertilization events. Also, we have looked upon where we saw about the endosperm development, and we saw about the embryo development and the various stages of an embryo, and dicot and monocot embryo. So, if these topics are clear, the topic which is going to come now is a very clear topics. The next topic is nothing but seed development, which is a post fertilization events. So when you focus on seed, seed is nothing but a transformed ovule or the product formed as a result of a fertilized ovule. So ovule will transform into a seed. You can see, this is a beans in lower class. You could have learned an embryonic axis, epicotyle terminates at shoot tip, hypocotyle terminates at root tip called radicle. We have two cotyledons, which gives the nourishment for the developing embryo now. And we have the seed coat, that is the outer integument and inner integument transforms into the seed coat called as testa and tegmen. About that, we're going to have a look. Now, mature seed are of two different types. One is albuminous and next one is non-albuminous. Other way I can say it is exalbuminous and albuminous. So you know that endosperm. Endosperm is a product formed as a result of option A, syngamy, option B, triple fusion.
Triple fish.
Triple fusion. So they have if you look about the embryo development, the zygote will not transform into embryo, or the embryo development will be stopped when there is no enough endosperm is formed. That means endosperm will nourish the developing embryo. Now we have learned about three different nourishment cell till now. One is the tapetum, which will nourish the microspore mother cell. Nucellus nourishes the megaspore mother cell present inside the embryo sac. And next we have seen about the endosperm, which will nourish the developing embryo. So the nourishment is actually limited or high limited or means nourishment is preformed or programmed, or nourishment is fixed. Now we are going to call a seed. A seed is called as non-albuminous when they have no residual endosperm. They may have cotyledons. They may have one or two cotyledons, depend upon the family they belong to, as monocot or dicot, but they have no residual endosperm. So you can see here a bean seed is there, cotyledons is there, but is no endosperm. Here you can see a corn seed is there. They have cotyledons, and along with cotyledons, even they have endosperm also. That means in this endosperm is completely consumed. So they have no residual endosperm as it is completely consumed during embryo development. Since the endosperm is completely consumed for the embryo development, it is called as ex-albuminous or non-albuminous. So we call some people as ex-polus, ex-servicemen. What do you mean by ex-servicemen?
Retired serviceman.
Retired. That means we can't say that they are not army jawans. They are the army jawans, but they got retired. That means they are not in regular service. But once upon a time, they were actually there in the army. Now they are given a post called ex-army, where they are not in service, but they are entitled for some benefits of the army people which they are getting. So that means here there is no residual endosperm, but cotyledons will persist. So they have no residual endosperm as it is completely consumed during embryo development, is called as non or ex-albuminous. Example, pea plant, groundnut and beans. So next is albuminous. Here it is albuminous, though they have cotyledons, but they have some amount of endosperm which is not completely consumed, partially consumed, or three-fourth can be consumed. So they retain some of the endosperm with them. Example, wheat, maize, barley, castor, coconut, and sunflower. So these are the various, you can see the diagrammatic way I have represent you. All this we have learned in the previous classes. I won't discuss you about the structure. Any doubt, children, in differentiating between non-albuminous and albuminous, or ex-albuminous and albuminous?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So if you're clear with it, then I'll go with perisperm. So what is perisperm? For the embryo sac development, we require an tissue which can nourish them. What is the tissue called as? It starts with N.
Useless.
Nucellus. Suppose the nucellus may be completely consumed, nucellus may not be completely consumed, some amount of nucellus may persist. Occasionally, if you look up at a pepper, occasionally in some seeds like pepper or beet, remnants of nucellus is also persistent. So if the nucellus is not completely consumed, the remnants of nucellus is called as the perisperm. And integuments. How many integuments are there in megasporangium or the ovule?
Two, sir.
Two. Outer integument, inner integument. So, common term is integument. Integument will develop into a seed coat. To refine the knowledge, the outer integument forms testa, inner integument formed technique. So we have testa. So about that also separately, I'll be teaching you about the structure, and that we can have an extra knowledge of what has to be seen. So we have the seed coat is formed, and the micropyle will remain as such, through which oxygen and water entry into the seed during germination takes place. You know that seeds can be preserved for long number of time, even a year in your home. You can say, you can just say that whatever maybe the seeds it is, we can proudly say and we can see that we can store the seeds because they have a period called dormancy. As the seeds mature, it becomes dry by reducing water content, 10 to 15% moisture by mass. The metabolic activity is also slows down or stops. It may enter a state called dormancy. Under when the favorable condition is reached, that is required amount of moisture, oxygen, temperature, when they put on the soil, the manure. So when everything is proper for them, then they start germinating. So what are the advantages of seed? What as a seed provides for everyone? So if you look about the advantages provided by the seeds, pollination is water dependent. Fertilization is also more or less, if water is there only fertilization take place. Since pollination and fertilization are dependent on of water, seed formation is more independent. They don't depend on the any mode of transfer of agents and all, and better it can adapt to various diverse habitat, and through the birds or through the winds or through the water, the seeds can be carried to long distance. It helps them to the species to colonize into other areas also. Even if I want to plant a rice crop in America, I can take it easily in a packet. I can just take the seeds, I can drop in America. If everything is good, then it can go right in that condition also. They have food reserves, so young seedlings are nourished until they are capable of photosynthesis. The hard seed coat protects the young ones or young embryo. I'm sorry, I should not use young ones, young embryo. Being product of sexual reproduction, they generate new genetic combination and variation. But there are some cases where seed is formed without sexual mode also. We're going to call them as apomixes. About that we can discuss. Dehydration and dormancy of mature seeds are crucial for storage of seeds. It can be used as food throughout the year and also to raise crops in the next season. Next is viability of seed after dispersal. So there is actually some seeds which have lived for more than hundreds of years also. You can see here Lupinus arcticus, that is the oldest is that is lupine Lupinus arcticus, excavated from Arctic tundra. The seed germinated and flowered after an estimated record of 10,000 years of dormancy. I told you in your home you're storing for 1 year, but it's about 10,000 years of dormancy. After that, these seeds have germinated. Again, as a type of dates we called Phoenix dactylifera. So this is the Phoenix seeds. So 2000 years viability of this seed discovered during the archaeological excavation of King Herod's palace. near the Dead Sea. So next is fruit. The ripened part of ovary is called as fruit. The ovary ripens completely to form a fruit. Inside the fruit only you can see the seed. So inside the ovary we had a ovule before fertilization. So now the ovary is a product of fertilization. Of course, these are the basic information. The wall of ovary is called as pericarp. The fruits may be fleshy, that is the edible part. We go to this is a seed, and this is the exocarp, mesocarp, and endocarp, and the fleshy part is the mesocarp. Pericarp is nothing but the fruit wall. So the fruit may be fleshy or dry. Example, groundnut or mustard. But I want to say that there are two types of fruit, children: true fruit and false fruit. True fruit is a fruit which is formed only from ovary. That is, the fruit developed only from the ovary. Other floral parts and all degenerate. That means it is a true fruit. But you can see here, seed is here, and you can see this is the ovary part. So this is the seed. You can see one line here. This is the ovarian part. So what is this part, edible part in apple? The thalamus part. That means, along with ovary, even the accessory part, instead of degenerating, the accessory part also take part in fruit formation. Means it's a false fruit. That means, if you take a apple or strawberry or cashew, in this the thalamus also takes part in fruit formation. True fruit is developed only from ovary. False fruit is developed from the ovary along with the accessory part called thalamus. False fruit is equal to, in case of apple, ovary plus thalamus. Strawberry also ovary plus thalamus. True fruit means they are developed only from ovary. One mark question only it will be asked. Any doubt in differentiating the true fruit and the false fruit?
No, sir.
Okay. It means true fruits and false fruits. When only the ovary of the flower grows into the fruit, it is known as the true fruit. But often other floral parts also takes part in fruit formation. That is the thalamus, even sometimes calyx also, sometimes in corolla also, and that is called as the false fruit or the pseudocarp. We say false means false, pseudopodia, false fruit, pseudo fruits or pseudocarp. So in cashew, when you take the pedicel and the thalamus grow and become swollen and fleshy, forming an edible fruit-like body called as false fruit. Apple and pear are also a false fruit where the thalamus, which is actually grows around the inferior part of the ovary, not on the superior part. On the inferior part of the ovary only we have thalamus in case of apple. So that becomes edible, and the apple which you are eating now, the edible part is nothing but not the ovary. Thalamus is the edible part. You will discard the ovary, you will discard the seed. You will have only the thalamus, and that is the edible part from which we are making the juices, or even you're consuming the apple. That is only a false fruit. Now, people say banana is a true fruit because it developed from ovary, but people say it is parthenocarpic. So, what is the new term I'm introducing called parthenocarpic? Have you maybe if you have went to the market and if you have bought some fruits, have you come across the term called seedless fruit?
Yes, sir.
That you'll be
Yes,
having
sir.
some grapes which is black in color, which does not have any seeds at all, but it is very tasty. So seed is a product of fertilization, but there are some fruits which is formed without fertilization. In some species, fruits are formed without fertilization. Such fruits are called as parthenocarpic fruit. Example, banana is truly a parthenocarpic fruit. And if you look up at parthenocarpic can be introduced using some growth hormones also. Now I'll introduce a term for you. Banana is a true fruit. Why we going to call banana as a true fruit? I'm saying true. Banana is a true fruit. Why?
Develops only from ovaries.
It is developed only from the ovary. At the same time, it is called parthenocarpic. Why? Why?
Develops without fertilization.
Yes, it's a one mark question for your board exam. Banana is actually a true fruit, but called parthenocarpic. Justified. Banana is a true fruit because it is formed from ovary, but the fruit is formed without fertilization. Hence, it is parthenocarpic. Now, you all know that fruit can also be formed without fertilization. Can seed be formed without fertilization? Yes, the answer is yes. It is called apomixis. Seeds are the product of sexual reproduction having regular features. That is, meiosis, mitosis, fertilization, all this even occurs. However, there are some plants that have developed a mechanism to produce seeds without fertilization, and that is called as apomixis, which can be seen in Asteraceae and grasses. It is a form of asexual mode of reproduction that looks like it is a sexual mode of reproduction. So a term I'm going to introduce a term called hybrid vigor. What is this vigor? The capacity to form a or it is actually hybrid vigor is nothing but a property which is there in a hybrid. For example, I'm taking a sugar cane which can grow only in North India, another sugar cane which can grow in South India. I'm saying South Indian sugar cane are thick and they can are resistant to disease, but North Indian they are very thin, so sugar content is less. So that we're going to call Saccharum officinarum, South Indian variety. For example, I'm saying here, and Saccharum berberi, North Indian variety. Crossing these two, I got a new progeny called Saccharum berberdens. The Saccharum berberdens can grow both in North India as well as South India and thick stem and disease resistant. So this is the property. That is what they can grow in North India as well as South India, high sugar content and disease resistant. So the two different parents' character are joined in the progeny. If they're going for sexual mode of reproduction, as we've seen in the point, that sexual mode of reproduction will bring a new combination. And I don't want any new combination. Why? Because the hybrid vigor should not be lost. If the hybrid vigor is lost means if any seed is formed with sexual mode of reproduction, new combination, that means I'll get a new variety. The new variety may be favorable or non-favorable. But by biotechnological method, I have a seed which have some hybrid capacity that should not be lost. Therefore, apomixis is nothing but it is a type of process which mimics sexual mode of reproduction, but is not a sexual mode of reproduction. It is an asexual mode of reproduction where a seed is formed without a fertilization. So apomixis is a Greek word which means away from acting of mixing because there is no fusion of sperm and egg. And when you look about this, in some species, the diploid egg cell is formed without a reduced division and develops into the embryo without fertilization. In many species, example citrus and mango variety. So when you look about in these categories, the nucellus, that is the cells which are surrounding the embryo sac, divide protruded into the embryo sac to form an embryo. This each ovule contains many embryo. This condition is called as polyembryony. So what is polyembryony? It is actually in another mode where there is a formation of more than one embryo from a single fertilized ovum or in a single seed. That means you take any citrus fruit like lemon, or you can take oranges. When you squeeze, you will get only one seed, or you're getting many seeds in them.
Many seeds.
Many seeds. That is a case called polyembryony. The production of two or more than two embryos from a single seed or fertilized egg is called as polyembryony. In our case, we call as twins. Here we call as polyembryony. In plants, this phenomena is caused either due to the fertilization of one or more than one embryonic sac or due to the origination of embryos outside the embryo sac. It was first discovered by Anton von Leeuwenhoek in citrus plant seeds. So there are two types, which is not there in your book, but still I thought okay you should know about this. That there are two different types of polyembryony, which I'm have to discuss with you all now. First one is cleavage polyembryony. This is like making a twins. When the embryo arises within an embryo sac by cleavage of the egg or forming synergid antipodals or the endosperms. So you can see the embryo. So here the cleavage occurs after cleavage the cells are separating and they're forming new embryos. This is a type of cleavage. Looks like a twins formed from a zygote when they're dividing. And if they have divided into two, then they are forming a two different categories. That is what we want to highlight here, and that is a cleavage polyembryony. What is adventive polyembryony means? When the embryo arises from the tissue outside the embryo sac. Here it is inside the embryo sac. We are getting the natural syngamy, but after the syngamy, we're getting a normal embryo that undergoing division and they form an individual cells. So many embryos are formed. But in this case, the cells which is there outside, that is, I can say the nucellus. The nucellus will transform into a nucellar embryo. The cells adjoining outside embryo sac, if they develop into an embryo, that is called as adventive polyembryony. So, what is the importance of apomixis in the hybrid seed industries? I told you that the hybrid vigor should not be lost. If the seeds from hybrids are sown, the plants with the progeny will segregate and lose hybrid character. So, the hybrid vigor will be lost. I'll get a new character which is not at all favorable when we go for any mode of hybrid industries. And production of hybrid seeds are very costly, so every year the farmer have to go and buy the seeds again and again. But if I'm making any crop to produce seeds by apomixis, next time the farmer can use the same crop, so no need to buy the seeds again and again. If the hybrids are made into an apomictic, there is no segregation of character because it is not a sexual mode of reproduction. So the hybrid vigor will not be lost. So farmers can keep on using hybrid seeds to raise a new crops. With this, the chapter